Good afternoon, everybody. I see that we have 12 attendees so far, so I'll wait just a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. Hope everybody can see us and hear us okay. I'll wait about one more minute for a few more to join before I get started. Okay, I'll get started now. Welcome, everybody. This webinar is titled Resumes and the Remote Job Search. My name is Chris. I'll be introducing myself here momentarily, but the first thing I want to do is welcome everybody and thank you for spending some time with us here today. I understand that we have students and alumni possibly joining this webinar, and I want to extend a special thanks for everybody spending time with us today. Second of all, go through some housekeeping items. First of all the attendees are on listen-only mode. And that being said, if you have a question, please type your question in the, click the Q&A icon and type your question in, and we will be answering all the questions at the end of the presentation, approximately 12:45, somewhere in that range, and we will get to your questions. All the questions will be answered at the end of this presentation. And lastly, this webinar is being recorded. So we're recording the whole thing, and we will have it available on the TU website and on TU's YouTube channel after it's all done, okay? All right, housekeeping's over. Lastly, what I'd like to do is introduce those of us who are heading up this webinar. I will do that right now. My name is Christopher Wong, and I am the career coach for engineering and the College of Engineering and Natural Sciences. With me is Brooke Smart. She's the career coach for our College of Arts and Sciences. And then lastly, we have Cassandra Crawford-Sigler, who is our career coach for health professions and pre-health professions. They will be helping me today, and they'll be taking over parts of the presentation. So with that, I'll get started. Okay. What we're going to discuss today, three main things. First of all, we're going to get into resumes fairly deeply. We're going to talk about resume essentials. And then after that, we are going to move into what are called remote jobs. what they are all about, and how to begin a search for these remote opportunities. So with that, I'll get started on resumes. Okay. We've got some excellent memes throughout this presentation, so not only enjoy them, but comment on them if you would like. First of all, let's go through the do's and don'ts of writing a professional resume. 3 main points here to consider. We want to make sure that the essentials are included in the resume. We want to make sure that the resume is perfect, mistake-free, free of spelling errors, diction errors, that sort of thing. And lastly, it might be easy to put together a 1-page resume, but it's much easier said than done. And the tips that I'll go into will explain why it's not the easiest task in the world. First of all, what is the average time spent looking at a resume? This is a hiring manager, an HR official, somebody who's making a decision on hiring. What's the average amount of time spent looking at a person's resume? The answer may shock you. 10 seconds. 10 seconds is all that a person really gives to a resume because of the amount of resumes they are required to look at, because of all of their other commitments during the day. 10 seconds is all they have to look at a resume. So we want to make sure that the resume really pops in that 10 seconds that you have to sell yourself on that document. Okay. 5 things, 5 do's that you must do for every resume. It's important that you customize the resume for each job for which you are applying. You must add specificness, specific words, specific items that relate to that job for which you are applying. You must present to the employer or the decision maker what you can do for them. Okay, you have 10 seconds on a document to explain that. So it's essential that you explain very clearly and very quickly what you can do for them as a potential employee. It's important that the appropriate keywords are used in a resume because there are algorithms out there. There are automated word searches out there. There are ways that employers scan and look through resumes electronically, and in other ways, they look for keywords. They look for keywords that are appropriate to the job description and the job for which you are applying. So keywords are very essential. Lastly, it's important to remain consistent in your writing and your formatting. We don't want anything to be confusing or misleading or any way, not focused on the material of the resume. Nothing that can take the hiring person's or the employer's eye away from the material of the resume. So it must be very clear and consistent. Okay, here's some don'ts. Here's some things not to do on a resume. A resume should not include irrelevant or any type of information that is not germane to the job for which you are applying. One must not forget to go over the resume and make sure that the contact information is up to date. There's nothing worse than having an old phone number, an old email address on the resume. You would be lost, and you would not be able to be contacted by the employer if your information is not updated. In that respect, an email address should be something professional. It shouldn't be something for which you use to chat and communicate with friends. It shouldn't be something that has any kind of flowery type titles or anything like that. It should be very professional. We want resumes to avoid having an objective. An objective oftentimes is not necessary. It takes away from the material of the resume, and it's something that most employers probably pass right by if it's at the top of a resume. So we recommend not having an objective at the top of the resume. There are cases, of course, where an objective might be useful, but that's on a case-by-case basis. And surely an expert in resume development could help you with that, if that is a question. Lastly, vague or over flowery or descriptive language is not necessary on the resume because it does take away from the meat of the material and the information that an employer is looking for. Too much adjective, too much description is often not necessary. So we like to avoid that at all costs. So those are the 5 don'ts of developing a resume. Okay, here's a good example of correct and updated contact information. This resume contains a name, an email address, a contact number, and a LinkedIn link to the person's LinkedIn profile. And I'm asking, is there anything wrong with this information? Two things that I'd like to address on here. The email address might not be of a professional enough nature to include on a resume. Something like this or something similar really takes away from the professionalism of the resume. So it's recommended that one change their email address to be a little more professional, a little less leisurely or descriptive, that sort of thing. Many of you might say that there is no physical address in this contact information, and I want to address that. Physical addresses on resumes are mostly not needed. It is not information that an employer needs to have, is one's physical address. There is no instance where an employer will want to come and knock on a person's door at their physical address. Therefore, we are saying that any type of physical address should be omitted from the resume. Now, one could put their city and state if they wish, their city and state and country if so needed. On a case-by-case basis, this might be important to disclose where the person is located. But for now, we are saying that a physical address should not be included on the resume. On a resume, the education section is very important. We request that everybody list the University of Tulsa. That is the formal name, the University of Tulsa. And all references to our university should be the University of Tulsa. One's major or majors and minor or minors should be included on the resume in full detail. A grade point average, the GPA. This is optional information. If one has a very strong GPA, or if they know that the position for which they are applying is dependent on a strong GPA or a certain GPA, that information should be included. If the GPA might be less than optimum, that GPA could be excluded from the resume and filled with other information about the education. It's really, again, it's on a case-by-case basis, and it's up to the resume writer whether or not to include their GPA. The expected graduation date is very important. It tells the employer when graduation is expected, and so when the resume writer is available for full-time employment. So this is essential information on the resume for education. Okay, let's talk about work experiences, internships, and so forth on the resume. First off, relevant leads. If you should have experience or qualifications, okay, that are very targeted to the job for which you are applying. It should be at the top of the list. It should be foremost, because we want to make sure the employer sees that first. Relevant experience is extremely valuable information on a resume, because it tells the employer that you could be a very good fit for the position based on this experience. So we should keep that top and foremost, if it certainly does exist, to have that top and foremost on the resume. Okay, after any and all relevant experience is listed on the resume, everything else should go into the resume in chronological order from present to past. That might be considered reverse chronological order, from most recent to less recent, listed downwards on the resume. Lastly, actionable items. Make sure that you are describing your accomplishments and skills, okay, that you have built. Describe them well. Use a lot of good power action verbs to describe the skills and accomplishments. Don't just list tasks such as showed up to work at 9 o'clock every day, and maintained my cleanliness of my desk area, that sort of thing. List your accomplishments. List what you learned. List the skills that you developed while you were at that position, and be clear and concise, and use effective verbiage, okay, that will really drive those accomplishments home. This is typical. A person just graduated, interviewing for a job. The employer is looking at the resume, asking for 5 years of work experience. It's a kind of a catch-22. You need the experience. You need the job to get the experience, but you need the experience to get the job. And surely that might be a point of frustration for many of you listening. But please talk to your career coaches and such to that end. We can certainly help you through this situation. Skills and projects on the resume. Some pointers on these types of items to include. On skills, list only skills that are relevant to the job for which you are applying. Say you do have excellent bow staff skills or taekwondo. Those type of skills might not be extremely relevant to the job for which you are applying, but if so, please list them. They show that they show how a person has developed the skill, has worked hard to develop a skill, and that makes a person very well-rounded. So skills are certainly something to include on the resume, but make sure that they're somewhat relevant. Projects. One should highlight projects that are relevant to and complementary of the job for which you are applying. That's a lot of projects. If the projects have developed good transferable skills that do apply to this job position, please list them and describe them as best as possible. And lastly, languages. Many of you listening might be bilingual or multilingual. This can be listed as a relevant skill, or as it can be listed as its own entity to further highlight the fact that you are proficient in more than one language. Many jobs that is a plus, that is a preferred skill, and many it is a required skill. So list languages and how proficient you might be in each language, because that certainly would apply and may apply to the job for which you are applying. Okay, honors and awards. Again, this is a section that we encourage all resume writers to list. Make sure that those honors and awards are, again, relevant and that they are listed in a way that you feel highlight your best qualities, make you stand out as an ideal or exceptional candidate. Scholarships, academic awards, athletic awards, writing awards, that sort of thing are relevant, should be included on the resume. We encourage that to happen because it does highlight those accomplishments that could make you an ideal candidate for the job. This last slide here kind of sums up several things. First of all, a good resume is key to getting that call from the employer that they wish to look into the relationship further. They want to know more about you. They are interested based on what you've documented as your education and accomplishments. So the resume gets you in the door. The resume does grab the attention of the employer to the point where they want to talk to you further. Okay, it's the interview and the process that goes on later that actually gets you the job. And interviews, they are a huge topic all in themselves, and I'm sure that there will be webinars and educational things here in the future that talk specifically about the interview. But the point is this: a good resume will get you in the door, and the interview will get you the job. That's how we feel about it at Career Services. And this last thing, see a career coach today for assistance with your resume. See a career coach as soon as possible. If you have any questions, if you haven't started a resume, if you have started one and you're not satisfied, you have one and you haven't had anybody review it to give comments, please set an appointment with a career coach. We can certainly help you with all aspects of your resume. And we can answer virtually all questions that you might have, and we can help you develop the best resume for the job that you are going for. I can't stress that enough. We're always available to look at, review, and give assistance on resumes. Okay. We're going to move now to remote jobs. So I will turn this over to my colleagues.
Hi, everybody. So we're going to touch a little bit on what a remote job is and about what that process looks like of obtaining one of those roles, especially right now in what we're going through with COVID-19. I think it can be really helpful to kind of identify the opportunities that are going to be in front of you right now. So just to start off, what is a remote job? Well, it's done away from an office, but it could be at a home office. Your location is remote, which would mean multiple different places. It could be full-time, it could be part-time, it could be abroad, it could even mean travel, just depending on what situation we are in. So with that being said, remote positions are basically something that you're doing away from your company's office space. And so that could mean that you are traveling and meeting with different people, so you're not in the office. Obviously right now it's probably going to mean more that you are working from home, which is going to be the kind of the target point that we're looking for right now. Next slide.
I'm having a little trouble moving to slides. 1 second. Okay. Brooke, I think that you have the microphone.
I do.
For some reason, it is not letting me. 1 second. There we go.
Okay, so the next piece that's going to come up is a crash course to remote work. And so what we're looking at is remote work is exactly what it sounds like. You're working from anywhere, anytime, not just from home. So again, like kind of what we talked about, you could be traveling, you could be calling on different offices. It just means that you are not in your current office. A flex job, meaning flex can mean time shifting working hours during the week, or even job sharing with another part-time person. So kind of like you have a flexible schedule, you're going to pair that together, whether you're working full-time or part-time with another person or by yourself, just kind of adjust the hours of when you are actually putting in the time. Telecommuting is somewhat of a dated term, but it is something that you can use in your searches just to see if anything else pops up. Someone who works from home or all hours from home, usually in the same geographic area as the company. This person can go into the office and attend meetings if needed. We would typically hear terms like that. It's very similar to this next piece that comes up that's a virtual job. So it's a type of telecommuting job where you will most likely be working 100% from home or 100% virtually. Somewhat of the situation that we're in right now. Next. Okay, this next piece is the pros of having a remote position. So first off, there is longevity. So a laptop means you can work from home, on the road, and even from the hospital. It's work that takes into account how unexpected life is, which right now I feel like it's somewhat of a freedom, that if you have the ability to work from home, now you have the capabilities to still be connected and work and be productive in the situations that we're in, especially working from home. Productivity. So a statistic in an article that we read said 77% of remote workers report greater productivity, in part because they deal with fewer distractions. Think about all those times someone just drops by your office when you're trying to work. Having that said, working remotely might look a little different if we weren't all required to stay at home. Kids, pets, all of those things can be interpreted as coworkers right now, and they can still be somewhat of a distraction. So things to account for, but when all of this transitions back to normal and you were working in a remote position, it would just be you typically at home working. So productivity tends to go up. Communication skills, again, when you're working remotely, you can never over communicate. So it means that you're going to dramatically improve every technique, from how you present ideas to how you voice your frustrations about a coworker. It also comes back down to, you may not have as easy of access to your coworkers as you would if you could just walk down the hall and pop into their office. So you're going to have to over communicate different situations, whether that's through email or through instant messages, things like that. So just things to keep in mind. You can never say it too much. Obviously, you don't need to get in somebody's face about something, but still, it's helpful to make sure that we know that everyone's on the same page. Your health, workplace flexibility, lowered stress, and a lower risk of burnout, which is also an improvement on one's mental health. So it gives you the opportunity to take some time for you. Think about how many times in your office you would take a moment to go get a coffee, but then you would take it right back to your office and get right back to work. Working remotely gives you the opportunity to maybe step outside, take in a little bit of sunshine if you can, focus on some things that you can do. It also eliminates the travel time, so you can really target some of the things that you're doing to make sure that you stay healthy and prevent yourself from getting burned out of that position. And then equity. So it has really showed that a remote position has helped to end the gender wage and leadership gap. So, leveraging that into your opportunities is a great way to maybe move up the ladder, so to speak. So, all right, next slide. Next, we have the cons. So speaking from personal experience, since we're all working remotely right now, I can say that it is definitely tough if you enjoy working in an office environment, because working remotely, you do feel a bit isolated. Well, like it says, if you're accustomed to a busy office environment, switching to a home schedule might take some time to get used to. Consider messaging throughout the day and visiting coffee shops. Obviously, coffee shops are a little bit of a struggle right now, because it's not necessarily someplace where you can go sit down and have a coffee with someone. However, you can be intentional about your contact with different people. Working remotely also provides time for you to say, reach out to people you haven't talked to in a while, or get connected on a Zoom call or a Skype call or FaceTime, whatever that looks like, with friends and family. Accountability. So remote work requires a self-starter attitude, meaning you have to take the initiative. There's not someone here to come knock on your door and say, hey, you need to get your stuff done. It's going to be a lot more about you taking charge of your responsibilities that you need to get done. And then the last piece is access. Remote work means putting processes in place for proper planning to have access to your team. Schedule coordination and communication is key. So like I said, you're probably not going to be able to take a stroll down. If you have questions, you have to be thinking ahead, asking those questions, so that way a response from someone else is not holding you up from you being completing the tasks that you have at hand or your responsibilities. Thanks. So like I said, our kids and our pets can become somewhat of a distraction. It's been kind of fun to see all of the different postings on social media about everyone's coworkers from home. So, you know, just to bring a little light to it, you know, there's always going to be little distractions, but at the same time, it's also nice to know that you have someone that is there with you, whether it's your cat laying across your keyboard, or your dog that needs constant cuddles, or your kids who are starving and need something to eat. You know, you just never know what's going to come up, but life goes on. The beauty of working remotely is that you can kind of leverage your time. If you spend 30 minutes hanging out with your cat or eating lunch with your kids, you can always tack that on in a different place, and maybe they've settled in a little bit for the day. So next. All right, I'm going to hand this over to Cassandra. She's going to talk to you a little bit more about finding remote jobs.
All right. Wong, do I have the mic? All right.
Yeah.
Brooke, before I start talking specifically about finding remote jobs, I kind of want to give some statistics about finding remote jobs and what that market looks like. So over the last 10 to 15 years, there's been a 43% increase just in remote jobs and just them being occasionally online. And then in the past 10 years also, there's been a 115% increase in jobs being fully online, remotely at home. So as you see, the remote job market is here, it's now. And so finding remote jobs, they're there. And some of the fields that are really predominant in the remote job world: computer, IT, medical, health, sales, computer service, education and training, human resources and recruiting, accounting and finance. So we're going to talk about some job boards here in a little bit where you can find jobs in all of these different markets. So trying to find a remote job, what's the best way to go about it? Well, obviously, again, we talk about, you know, our memes here. It's like, hello, is it leads that you're looking for? Well, what's the best way to go about it? The first thing I mentioned is looking for a work-specific job board. You want to bookmark career pages that specifically are remote companies. Using LinkedIn and using remote job search, which we're going to talk about. I'm going to show you how to do that here in just a moment. You want to make sure, again, that all of your search materials that you have are updated. Make sure your resume is updated, which we just gave you a great in-depth overview about how to do that. You want to make sure your LinkedIn is updated. Have customized cover letters that highlight the problem-solving skills that you have. So you make sure that your cover letters are targeted to these positions that you're applying for. And then you want to practice your remote presentation skills. When you're interviewing for a remote job, you want to make sure that you are able to deliver an interview online. So practice, set up a Zoom, a Skype, a FaceTime with a family member, and practice that presentation before you have that online interview. And you also want to make sure that your technology is set up and that it's going to be good to go, and maybe even have a backup computer in case your first one crashes. Next slide, please.
Sorry.
That's okay.
It kicks out every once in a while.
Don't worry about it.
There we go.
So the 5 best remote job boards that are available to individuals who are really searching for remote jobs, which obviously right now in this market would be a hot thing to be doing. We're all home with COVID-19. We're looking for remote jobs. Flex Jobs is an amazing site. They have access to all of those fields that I was just talking about, where they post jobs in those different areas. We Work Remotely, remote.com, Power to Fly, and justremote.com. So highly encourage you to check out these. These are credible job remote sites. And when I mention the word credible, that is also something that you have to be careful about when you are searching for remote jobs. You want to make sure that it's coming from a credible site. Be wary if someone contacts you about that too good to be true. If they reach out to you and just send you something out of the blue, research it and make sure, because it could be something that is a little shady and is coming from something that's not quite valid. Next slide, Mom. We wanted to have in this presentation for you some top remote companies that are out there working and hiring individuals today. I'm not going to go through all of these right now, but I wanted them to be here for you just to see them. So these companies are up and running and hiring people right here, right now. All of those links will be, if you put those in a Google search, or if you put them in whatever search engine it is that you use, they'll take you to their websites and show you whatever positions that they have available right now. So I wanted to also kind of address part-time remote positions, jobs and internships, and how those are beneficial for not only individuals working, but I wanted to talk to them and kind of, since I know that we have both alumni and students on here, I kind of wanted to talk about how those can be beneficial when you might have to take a position that's outside of your targeted area of expertise or out of the area where you think you might want to go. Because right now, some individuals actually are being furloughed, some individuals are being laid off from their work, some people are actually being let go and are looking for jobs. And it's not in their area that they're an expert in. So when you take a part-time job or an internship in a field that's not where you think that your career path is going to go, these experiences are still valued experiences. You're going to gain practical application from this job that you're still going to be able to highlight on your resume and use it to show that you have gained skills from it. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. So be open to any opportunity that you feel that you have skills that you can use and apply for the job and the internship. Think outside the box, show how this job and internship can benefit your professional growth and your career goals. Go ahead, Ron. So how some of these part-time goals, part-time internships, these part-time jobs can help you is with career readiness that can help you towards your professional growth and career goals. What these jobs can do is help you show critical thinking and problem solving. Every job that you do, you're going to be in a situation where you can show that you have helped in that kind of capacity. It will help you with oral and written communications. Every job, you have a supervisor. So you're going to show that you have improved in your oral and written communication skills. Professionalism and work ethic. every job, every internship, you're going to show how you grew and give specific examples whenever you target that on both your resume and a cover letter. Teamwork and collaboration skills, career management, digital technology, especially if we're talking about a part-time remote job or a part-time remote internship, you're going to be using digital technology. Let's highlight how you use that in your internship and how you grew from that experience. And then if you had some global or intercultural fluency in your internship experience, let's highlight that and show how you grew from that and benefited from that and how that's going to help you towards your total career goal. You can. So thinking again outside the box, searching online, what might some of these part-time and remote job internship opportunities look like? There might be some house sitting jobs, pet sitters, being a brand ambassador, a virtual event assistant or a virtual coordinator, copy reader or editor, delivery person, document editor. There are going to be some other jobs on this next slide. But how do you go about finding those as well? Specifically, I mentioned LinkedIn for our students, for our alumni, for those of you who are online. If you go to your LinkedIn profile and you click on jobs in their header, from there you just want to type in remote in the search job field, and it's going to open up a worldwide search there for you. Obviously, you can narrow it down from there if you're interested in something more specific. But LinkedIn is a great tool for you to use to search for remote jobs and what's out there right now. Handshake, which is available obviously to our students. If you go click on the jobs tab in Handshake, and it will take you to the job search page. It will load by default, and you type in remote in your job search. It's going to show you the relevant job postings that are available for remote work as well. And I've added the link down there at the bottom to get into Handshake as well. So that's available for you just as a reminder how to get into that. Next one, Mom. So again, thinking outside the box, what can we do right here, right now? What are some additional opportunities? I'm not going to go through all of these, but knowing how can I use those career readiness tools? What are some options out there for me if I just need something right here, right now in the interim because I need a job, I need, my internship isn't available right now. What can I do to show that I have done some career readiness this summer? There are all kinds of opportunities out there. And these are just some that have been listed. Use the resources that are available to you. Use your LinkedIn, use your networking skills, use Handshake, and most importantly, use your career coaches. That's what we're here for, to help you in this job search process, to help you in your internship search process. Let us help guide you in your professional career goals. There are remote opportunities that are out there, and we would be happy to help guide you and help you find what it is that you're looking for. So at this time, at this point in the presentation, we're going to ask first and foremost that you follow us on our social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And if you have any questions, this is a place where we're going to all be available to field those. So if you have them, start typing those in for us.
Okay, thank you very much, Brooke. Thank you very much, Cassandra, for helping out on this lengthy presentation. I'm going to the Q&A field right now, and I'm wondering, I hope that can be seen. I don't have any questions posted up right now. We'll wait a couple seconds. It appears that we have explained things so well that there are no questions. But I'll keep waiting. Please, if you have any questions whatsoever, please type them in now in the Q&A section and we'll get to them.
It looks like.
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead.
Here we are. We're getting some feedback. Thank you very much from Tulsa alumni. I have a question here. Are you still looking at resumes? Yes, we are still looking at resumes. Any way that you can get myself or the other career coaches' resume electronically by email, by text or something, we will take a look. We will review the resume and we will provide comments. And even better, if you set up an appointment, we'll discuss the resume together and go through it and use all of our skills to make that resume really pop. Another question is, do you need different resumes for different jobs? At the beginning of the presentation, I explained that resumes should be specialized for each job for which you are applying. Most of the time, the meat of the resume will not change, but you might be able to either rearrange or highlight some projects or educational aspects or work experience to further target that specific job. Otherwise, the material on the resume should stay pretty much the same. Another question. Okay.
It says, when you said to put relevant experience first and then, excuse me, and then reverse chronological order, should you include that relevant experience again?
I'm sorry, go ahead again.
Okay. When you said to put relevant experience first on your resume and then reverse chronological order, should you include that relevant experience again on your resume?
Like to reiterate on the resume? Correct. I don't think so. I think once it's listed at the top, or if it's highlighted as much of the top of the resume as possible, then it doesn't need to be reiterated. You can just keep going in reverse chronological order the remainder of your experiences or projects or that sort of thing. They don't need to be listed twice. Cassandra, do you have a question?
I think there's more that we've got. Okay.
I have another question. Should the way one goes about finding a remote job depend on one's major? That's a very, very good question. I think that probably is inquiring if maybe one should look at different search engines based on their major, or look at some niche search engines for, say, a specialized major. I think that the answer to that is I would stick to what we have listed in the presentation. Those links and those websites that foster most of the remote types of jobs, they will probably have keyword searches where you can enter your major or your field of study and probably get excellent results. So I hope that answers that question. Most of these search engines for remote jobs can handle most majors.
I would also add that in your search for remote positions, it's going to depend a lot on how you choose to market yourself to employers. So if you are applying for something that is not maybe specifically directly related to your study at TU or your previous study at TU, then you just want to make sure that you highlight your skill set and the things that you've developed based on what they are asking for in their job description. So if you have the skills to be qualified for that role, don't feel like you need to filter yourself out. Leave that to that company. You never know what extra experience you might bring to the table for a company.
Good. Thank you. Another very good question here. Is it important to quantify results? This question pertains to if you listed a project or a work effort that you completed. Please do try to quantify the results. If you increased the sales of the retail store that you were working at by 10%, 20%, list that, because that's a measurable accomplishment, and that should be listed on the resume. If you were able to reduce the waste in the facility that you worked at by 50% based on your work and your ideas, please list that. List on the resume quantifiable results that happened as a result of your work, your accomplishments, your ideas, what you did in your experience. Employers really like to see that, because it shows that you are result oriented, and that you have you can complete tasks that show real quantifiable results. Excellent question. Please do so. And let me reiterate, the career coaches, Cassandra, Brooke, and I can always help you if you have some experience that you want to try to quantify. We can help you do that. Okay, another question.
Is a good,
Go ahead.
Good practice to, if you are in a leadership role or a management role, if you have direct reports, you can display like how many direct reports you had or how many people you were in charge of managing. That kind of thing also is a way to quantify your skills. So things that you could also think about incorporating.
Good. Very good. Okay, next question. Should one send cover letter along with resume when applying? And our answer to that is a most resounding yes. We very much recommend having a cover letter to accompany the resume for submittal whenever you are allowed or asked to do so. And the cover letter is also a very big topic. I'm hoping that we'll be given the opportunity to cover cover letters in a webinar such as this, and help those of you out there struggling with a cover letter some pointers, some tips on how to develop that effective cover letter. But the answer to this question is yes. If you have the opportunity to accompany your resume with a cover letter, please do so.
I'm going to chime in here. And a cover letter is one that's targeted. So you're not going to just send the same cover letter, even though your resume, and the same thing goes with the resume, your cover letter is not going to be the same to every company, just changing out the company name. You're going to target it to that job description that you're applying to. So you may have, depending on how many jobs you apply for, you may have 5 or 10 different cover letters that you send out, depending on how many jobs you're applying for, because you're going to look at what they're looking for in that job description, and you're going to address that in the cover letter and pick out specific skill sets that you've accomplished and say, I see that you have been looking for someone who has these specific skills, and I have accomplished it through X, Y, and Z. You want to catch their attention right off the bat and grab them, so that then in that cover letter, they go, okay, I see this person. Now I want to go and look at their resume, maybe even more than 10 seconds. So that cover letter needs to be very specific to that job description.
Good. Thank you. Okay, a couple more questions. Since my resume is only looked at for 10 seconds, should I prioritize my bullet points within my jobs listed? I'd say the answer is yes. You should prioritize. We typically like maybe 2 or maybe 3 and no more bullet points to illustrate and to explain the job experience. And yes, definitely, if you could list the most significant aspect of that job or that experience as it is relevant to the job for which you are applying, list that one first. Employers might just read the top 1 or 2 bullet points for each experience if you have several listed there. So I kind of recommend, the most relevant bullet point should go at the top. I have one more question here. I use Excel and have it listed as a skill. Is that enough, or should I talk more about how I've used it? Okay, that brings up a real good point. For resumes in this current age, we are kind of assuming, and so are employers, that those who are applying for the jobs are proficient in using computers and somewhat proficient in using Microsoft Office applications. Unless the specific job is such that it discreetly asks for a certain type of Excel experience or word processing experience, a database experience, or something like that. If you have a special exceptional skill or talent, or have done something uncommon in some of these applications like Word or Excel, I would recommend listing that. Case in point, if you can work through Visual Basic and advanced macros in Excel, I would list that. If you can do mail merge and some advanced things in Microsoft Word, I would probably list that as well. Otherwise, if you want to say something like, I am good or proficient at Microsoft Office applications, you might want to leave that out and have that be assumed, and then put some other more relevant material into your resume. That's a little confusing, but I hope that answers the question.
I'll chime in and kind of help out a little bit. For my students, health professions and pre-health professions, the skills area that we list, this would be the place where you're going to, especially like my nursing, my speech language pathology students here at TU, this is where you're going to list the skills that you have gained in your clinicals. So this is where this goes, so that as you're applying for your nurse externships, as you're applying for those jobs, they know the skills that you've gained in your practical application areas, and any certifications that you have gained. So ACLS, BLS, my certified personal trainers, my health and exercise science, my athletic training students, any certifications that you have as far as my professional students, this is where this goes. This is where you showcase this and make sure that it stays. And when you have licensures, this is where this also is an area that you have. You want your licensures to be listed in this area. So I get that we're kind of a different, unique set, but also engineers, if you have a PE, professional engineering, that's an area, skills, something like that can also be listed in this area.
I would add one more thing as well. If the job description that you are applying for lists that as a skill set that you need to have, then it should also be included on your resume. If it's not listed, then it doesn't have to be, unless you feel like you have an exceptional skill in that area. But if it is listed as one of the requirements or skill sets that they are looking for, then you want to make sure that it's on there.
That's good.
Okay. That's all the questions that we have. And so we've done really good. First of all, I'd like to thank Cassandra and Brooke for their assistance in the webinar. I think it went really well, and I appreciate your input on all of the questions. And I'd like to tell everybody, thank you for spending time with us today. And at the end of this webinar, there will be, you'll be given probably a message email to complete a survey. We appreciate everybody completing a survey. Tell us how you feel. And if you would, please kindly fill out that survey to help us out. That would be greatly appreciated. So since there are no more questions, thank you again, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Brooke and Cassandra, for your help. And we will see you at the next webinar. Thank you.